Welcome back to the True Detectives podcast. I'm Adrian Smith.
And I'm Dr. Julia Jones.
And today we're going to be taking a deep dive into a story about a detective ritualistic killings in an ancient manuscript that seems to predict the end of the world.
Sounds pretty intense.
Oh, it is. Buckle up, because each murder feels like another tick of the Doomsday clock.
I'm definitely intrigued. Let's hear more.
Okay, so we start with Detective Sarah Thorne. She's a no-nonsense investigator.
Okay.
And she finds herself at a crime scene, unlike anything she's ever seen before.
Can you set the scene for me?
Yeah, imagine like a dimly lit room. It's filled with the aroma of incense, and there's a body carefully positioned within a pentagram.
A pentagram? That's pretty significant, right? It's got all these connections to rituals and the occult.
Exactly. It's not just some random symbol. It's a deliberate choice, and then you've got these strange symbols on the walls.
Okay.
And the victim's completely drained of blood.
Wow. This is starting to sound like something straight out of a horror movie.
You could say that. It's all very ritualistic, almost ceremonial.
I mean, just the fact that they used a pentagram suggests that there's some deeper meaning behind it, right? It's like they're trying to send a message or tap into some kind of specific belief system.
Right. And it's not just the pentagram either.
Yeah.
The symbols, the incense, the specific way the body is arranged, it all points to something more than just a random act of violence.
Definitely. This is a carefully staged scene. There's a purpose behind every detail, and that makes you wonder about the killer. What are they trying to achieve with all of this?
And this is just the first murder. As Detective Thorne starts digging deeper, she uncovers a pattern, a series of killings, each one seemingly inspired by this ancient manuscript that predicts the end of the world.
Ah, the mysterious manuscript. A classic element in these kinds of stories. It's fascinating how these ancient texts, especially the ones about prophecies and apocalyptic scenarios, can really capture the human imagination. You know, they tap into our primal fears, our fascination with the unknown, that possibility of a world-altering event.
This manuscript is written in faded Latin, and it's full of these unsettling prophecies and predictions. And the killings, they seem to mirror the events described in the manuscript almost perfectly.
So it's like the killer is using this ancient text as a guidebook, a blueprint for their horrific actions. That's a pretty scary thought.
It is. And it raises so many questions. Like, what kind of person would be so consumed by a prophecy that they'd be willing to do something like this?
Right. It makes you wonder about their state of mind. Are they completely fanatical, or is there something else going on? Are they using the prophecy as a mask for their own twisted desires?
Detective Thorne, at the beginning, she's skeptical.
Right.
She's all about logic and reason. But as the evidence piles up, it's becoming harder and harder to dismiss the connection between the murders and this ancient prophecy. She's forced to confront a reality that she might not be ready for.
It's that classic struggle between logic and the unexplained. That moment when you encounter something that just doesn't fit into your rational understanding of the world. It creates this incredible tension, this push and pull between what you believe and what you're seeing.
And as the body count rises, the media gets a hold of the story.
Oh, boy.
Headlines start screaming about ritualistic killings and the coming apocalypse. The public is terrified, and fear and paranoia start to spread.
You know, the media plays such a huge role in shaping public perception, especially in situations like this where there's so much mystery and fear. They can amplify anxieties, fuel speculation, and sometimes even create a sense of panic. We've seen it happen before.
Exactly. The media's coverage turns these murders into a full-blown societal crisis. The city's on the verge of chaos. Detective Thorne is under immense pressure to solve this case, to stop the killings, and to somehow restore order before it's too late. But time is running out. The killer's getting bolder, the killings are becoming more elaborate, and there's this growing sense that something even more sinister is on the horizon.
This is getting really intense.
It is.
I can't wait to see where this goes next.
We'll be right back after the break with part 2 of our investigation into the True Detectives podcast.
You know what really gets to me? It's how meticulously the killer plans everything out. It's not just random violence. Each murder is carefully staged, like they're trying to make a statement.
Yeah, it's like they're putting on a play with each crime scene, trying to send a specific message.
Exactly. And they're using these victims as their unwilling actors. It's all so theatrical and symbolic.
And speaking of symbolism, there's one particular event highlighted in the manuscript that adds a whole other layer to this case.
Huh. What's that?
A lunar eclipse.
Eclipses have always had this powerful effect on people throughout history. Across cultures, they've been seen as omens or signs of big changes.
And this eclipse, it's not just some random occurrence. It's woven into the killer's plan. It casts this eerie red light over the city, and you can feel the tension rising.
It's almost as if the eclipse is a trigger for everything the killer believes is supposed to happen.
Right, it's like a countdown clock ticking away, with each murder pushing us closer to the climax of this whole thing.
It's terrifying to think that someone could be so fixated on a prophecy that they'd go to these lengths.
And as Detective Thorne and her team are racing against time, trying to figure out the manuscript and stop the killings, they start to notice something about the victims.
Oh, what is it?
They're not random. They're all people who have been pushed to the fringes of society. A disgraced priest, a shunned historian, people who have been rejected by the mainstream.
So the killer sees themselves as some kind of punisher, taking out the people they think are unworthy.
It's possible. Like they feel justified in what they're doing.
That's a disturbing thought.
It is. And as the eclipse gets closer, the sense of dread just keeps growing. It's like everyone in the city is holding their breath, waiting to see what's going to happen.
It must be incredibly intense for Detective Thorne and her team.
It is. But just when it seems like they're hitting a dead end, Thorne's partner Harris finds something.
What is it? A clue?
Yeah. It's a hidden passage in the manuscript. Something that the last victim, the historian, managed to keep secret.
Oh, wow. That could be huge. It could be the missing piece they've been looking for.
And it leads them to an old astronomical observatory on the night of the eclipse.
Wow, an observatory. What a setting for a final showdown.
It's pretty incredible. Imagine it. The city's covered in this blood-red light from the eclipse, and there's a crowd gathered outside the observatory, drawn by fear, curiosity, all sorts of things. And inside, there's this hooded figure standing over a victim with a sacrificial dagger.
Oh my gosh. It sounds like something out of a nightmare.
It does. The air is thick with tension. You can feel the anticipation. And then Detective Thorne and her team burst in, guns drawn. It's complete chaos. Shots are fired. There's a struggle. They manage to save the victim, but just barely.
It sounds like a close call.
It was. But as things calm down, there's this chilling realization. The killer unmasked isn't some ancient evil or supernatural being. It's just an ordinary person. Someone driven by a lust for power and a twisted interpretation of that manuscript.
That's even more terrifying in a way. The idea that someone so ordinary could be capable of such horrific acts. It's kind of like a wake-up call, isn't it? It shows us that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones we think are hiding in the dark, but the ones who are right there with us all along.
Right. The ones who look and act just like us, but who have this darkness inside them.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what drives a person to that point? What makes them susceptible to these kinds of extreme beliefs?
It's a tough question. And even though they caught the killer, there's still this feeling that things aren't quite over yet. You know, the crowd outside the observatory, they weren't cheering when the killer was arrested. They were angry.
Oh, wow.
Like their faith in the prophecy was so strong that they were disappointed the world wasn't ending.
That's really unsettling. It's like the killer might be gone, but their ideas, the fear they created, it's all still out there.
And the manuscript itself has become this dangerous symbol. It's given people a framework for their anxieties and fears. It's like a blueprint for chaos.
And that's what's so scary about these kinds of prophecies. They can take on a life of their own and be used to justify all sorts of terrible things.
So it makes you wonder, is the real danger the prophecy itself, or is it our own capacity for fear and fanaticism?
That's a question we all need to think about, because it's so easy to get caught up in fear, to let it control our actions.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Jones, this has been a really fascinating and thought-provoking investigation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It was my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this episode of the True Detectives podcast. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of true crime and the unexplained, be sure to rate and follow the show for more. And remember, sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't supernatural. They're the ones that lurk within ourselves.